So today we're going to go over 3 key tools that you can use to eliminate distractions in your images. We are going to go over the clone stamp tool, healing brush tool, as well as the patch tool. Some of these tools you may be familiar with, although with the latest update in Adobe, it doesn't hurt just to sort of refamiliarize ourselves with these different tools. There's going to be times where one tool might work better than the other, but we're just going to sort of go through some different examples and just see how they work. So the first tool I'm going to use is my clone stamp tool. My clone stamp tool is over here on the left-hand side. And essentially, as it mentions, it paints with pixels from another part of the image. So the word clone literally means to copy. So what this lets me do is it lets me copy specific pixels from a selected part of my image and copy over what I want to get rid of. So when I look at it right now, my clone stamp tool is a little small. I'm going to make it a little bigger, either by using the bracket keys on my keyboard. The right bracket will make bigger, left bracket will make smaller, or you can also go in and change the size of the brush here, either make it smaller or bigger, as well as change the hardness of the brush. So the hardness of the brush is essentially how hard or harsh the edge is. I personally usually just kind of keep it on 0% and go in if I have to. So I'm just going to quickly zoom in to my image. And let's say for right now in this image, I want to get rid of this line right here, this power line. I only want to have this actual structure. I don't want the power line. So in order to use my actual clone stamp tool, what I'm going to do first is choose an area to clone or copy. So I want to kind of keep it as close to here as possible, so that way the blue is going to be the same shade or tone. Once I decide where I actually want to copy, I'm going to hold down my Alt Option key on my Mac. Okay, it does differ depending on if you're using a Mac or a Dell. In this or Windows, I'm just going to be using my Mac right here. So I'm going to hold down Alt Option, and I'm going to click because right here is where I want to copy. When I let go, it seems almost as if it's disappearing already. Okay, so when I click my image now, I'll start to go over my actual line. And as I'm doing this, you notice that there's a little mark going up and down. And that essentially is telling my brush where I'm actually copying from. And just like that, I'm able to fix it. So let's say if I wanted to go here, it's going to stay in the exact same spot. So it's basically telling my clone stamp that I want my clone option to be right next to where my brush is. So that right there is the clone stamp. Again, something that you have used in the past, but just wanted to refamiliarize. The next option to go over is the healing brush tool. Essentially, you can use this a lot of time to retouch and repair photos, usually used for correcting imperfections, especially as a healing brush, especially with acne. You can also use it in other settings too. What I'm going to do here is I have 2 options actually. When I click over here, 2 little band-aids, the spot healing brush tool and the healing brush tool. The spot healing brush tool is helpful. I'm going to zoom in for this. It's helpful because, again, if you want to just get rid of a small little spot. So click like that. And essentially what this does is it helps sort of take information from around where I'm selecting, and Photoshop sort of processes it and replaces it. It is not perfect. Sometimes you might get little mess ups here and there, but it is helpful if there's a small dot that you can't seem to get rid of. The healing brush tool itself can be used for slightly larger areas. So again, if I try it on here now, so click and drag. Again, it's a relatively simple image, so it's just sort of clicking here. However, one of the problems about it is that sometimes when you go closer to the edge, because it's taking data from around your brush, if you have a dark section like here and you're trying to fix that up, it's going to drag that down. However, it does do a relatively good job at just sort of cleaning up this one single line that I am trying to get rid of. However, now I do have that. So maybe I'll go in real quick with my clone stamp option. I'll zoom on in right here. I'm going to make my brush a little smaller. I'm going to make the brush a little harder as well so it doesn't blur too much. And holding down Alt Option, I'm going to click right over here and just sort of fix that up. One suggestion I have is whenever I want to clean up an edge, I'll actually select from a previous edge right there and I can try to line it up. Like that. So clicking and releasing, just like that. Okay. So that's the spot healing and healing brush option. And the last option I want to go over is the patch tool. So the patch tool is in the same area as the healing and spot healing brush tool. And what it allows you to do actually is you can draw an area around your selection and then essentially drag it and sort of patch it up, quote unquote. So what I'm going to do is, again, where the spot healing brush tool and healing brush tool are, is right under here, the patch tool. So if I wanted just to get this all gone at once, I'm going to zoom out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag. And this is sort of like the lasso selection tool. I'm essentially selecting an area that I want to select and change. Once it's actually in that selection, you're going to notice right here actually on the little icon, it's a little patch icon with an arrow. What that means is in here, I'm going to click and drag it over to another section of my image. And when I let go, it has now fixed that area for me. So then when I want to get rid of this line, it is a selection technically, so I can go to Command D to deselect it. And just like that, I have gotten rid of my first power line. So those are 3 main tools that we are going to play around with today. Again, you have full control over which tools you use for each image, but you have to use either or and all of them. Clone stamp, healing spot healing brush, and the patch tool.